I love the movie Die Hard, which is the best Christmas movie ever made, by the way, in case anybody wants to argue that point.
Listen very carefully. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
I love that scene where he's like, come out, nobody's coming to save you. And I thought through my whole 20s, my whole life, I always thought somebody was going to save me. And I projected that into girls that I was dating, waiting around for my father to save me. I was like John C. Reilly from Step Brothers, where I'm like, I'm going to get in the family business. And my dad's like, you didn't go to law school. What are you talking about? You're not going to get in the family business. But that's kind of how I thought. Like, there's going to be some windfall of money when my father, like, there was always something coming that didn't involve any personal accountability or action from me. And I think so many people live their life that way. So the purpose of the book is to wake as many people up as I can to that, especially now when you look at what's happening with the speed of AI and so many people's jobs are at risk. You've got to get control of your life now. If you let somebody else design your life, I promise you're not going to like the result.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Friends podcast, where it's our mission to help you build better friendships. Today on the show, I have a good friend of mine actually in studio. So this is not a make friends occasion. I guess this is more of a congratulate friend on book occasion, which is Escaping the Drift with my good friend, John Gafford. John, what's up, dude?
Hey, man. Glad to be here.
So book time, obviously, you weren't busy enough or?
No, it's kind of always been, it's always been a goal of mine to write a book for several reasons. Number one, it seems like ever since COVID, I kind of got this idea around COVID. And what I saw was it just seems like this level of apathy that was running through everything. Yeah. Especially after we first came back, and it's still running that way. I think you just see people are just kind of drifting along and going along with the motions. And I think it's gotten worse. And it's always been my mission to try to rescue as many people in a way that I wish I could get in a time machine and go back and rescue myself, my earlier 27-year-old self. And I've often said that the book is two things. Number one, it's a legacy to my children, obviously. It's nice to have something, should something happen to me tomorrow, that they can get some life lessons out of. Sure. And number two, it is a user's manual to my dipshit 27-year-old self. That's what it is.
Yeah, I especially liked, there's a whole chapter in here on something I'd like to talk about, which is networking. Yeah. And that's actually kind of the reason I brought chapter 11 looks like is the networking chapter. That's one of the reasons I brought out some whiskey for this occasion, because you and I were introduced from another big believer in relationships who's recently passed, which is our friend Steve Sims. And Steve is a big whiskey dude. Yep. And so I figured, why not kick things off with a quick cheers to our friend Steve for introducing us and for really just being big shining light in a world. So
the shining light.
Cheers.
The shining light. Cheers.
Sorry, it's not Hibiki Harmony. It's a little Buffalo Trace, but this is my whiskey. This is my podcast, Steve. So
one of the things that I'm so grateful for about the book is that Steve asked to write the foreword when he was in the hospital dealing with cancer and fighting the good fight. And he asked to write the foreword. And I'm so grateful that I got him to do that. Yeah. Because it's not just so much, for me, and that he was such a great guy and such an impactful, and he cared enough about me to do that. But I just think it's really lovely that even after he's passed now, there's something for Claire and his kids to have that, hey, he's getting published one more time.
Again, another thing to put out into the world. Yeah. So, he was just one of those dudes, man, just was always looking to give something, you know what I mean? And in terms of like relationships, friendships, like he was a guy, like he was one of the people that made me sort of realize that the whole like build your network idea was not necessarily the correct one. Like it's not necessarily about networking as much as it is about making friends, which is sort of the reason behind the rebrand from Build Your Network to Travis Makes Friends. Is that was a big realization I had along the way, is that like the people who I noticed that did it the best, like the Steve Sims, then the Dan Fleischman type people, they're the people who are just collecting friendships, not necessarily, in it to gain something from somebody else, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They're always just trying to add value, see how they can help, and genuinely connect with people.
Yeah, I can't even, those two guys you just mentioned, the amount of connections that I've made because of those two guys is, I can't even, and the money that I've made because of those two guys is just immeasurable. And, it's a good reminder. It's one of those things where when you're young, you think you're invincible and you think that nothing is going to happen. And I actually have something that I wear every day, which reminds me that nothing is, forever. I have a chain that says Memento Mori. And on the back of it, I have the initials of all of my good friends that have passed away. And I actually just unfortunately had to take it and add double S's on it. Yeah, so that's for Steve. But I look at this every day, and when I don't want to do something, or when things are hard, or when things are not going my way, I just kind of rub this as like my little thing to remind myself that any one of these guys would give anything to kind of be here going through this, because most of these guys were great at the struggle. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, cheers, Steve. Thank you for making the intro to John. We've done a lot of cool stuff together over the years.
Well, yeah.
Hung out in a bunch of different random states, a bunch of different random places, and hung out with a bunch of really cool people together. So none of that would have been possible without this introduction from Steve. So again, huge shout out to Steve. Let's talk a little bit more about the dipshit 20s version. And then we'll kind of get people up to date on what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think it was, for me as a younger person, it was always about, especially through my mid-20s, it was about tying my identity to something I could flex. I had a bunch of cool jobs and I had a bunch of cool stuff, but nothing that made any real money. And I was always kind of just next paycheck, next, ruin my credit like it was my job. I mean, literally like it was an Olympic sport. I would get the gold medal in credit ruining, and just
buying stupid stuff, or like over leveraging businesses.
Just being irresponsible. And anybody that's ever had bad credit, if you've ever done that, you understand it's like a boulder that starts rolling downhill. Yeah. So once you do something stupid with a credit card, well, now all of a sudden you got to go buy a car, and so you can't get one in a normal place. So you have to go to some ridiculous place, and you pay this back-breaking rate for some car that you can't afford, and then it breaks down, and then all of a sudden, then you have that problem, and now you're hiding it from the repo man, because even though it's broken, you can't afford to do both, and it just becomes this spiral of downhill. And the reality of it is I've been there. It's not that hard to get out of that if you just get focused about. And the book starts with chapter 1 is radical honesty about where you are right now.
Yeah,
and I think that's really where you need to start with that. But in my 20s, again, a lot of cool jobs, but nothing that made a bunch of money, and I really tied my identity to that. And it's when I started. The real story for me is, I started getting better at what I was doing. And people talk about The Apprentice a lot, and I actually start the book with The Apprentice. But that was the first time, you talk about build your network, I'd ever been surrounded by people that were just absolute killers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you're sort of already used to being that guy in your friend groups.
Yeah. And even though I wasn't making a bunch of money, I was self-important to myself. And, I did reach the pinnacle of all of those jobs that I could do. I mean, I was a multi-unit guy for Hooters America, one step down from vice president. I was, I ran one of what Esquire magazine called the number one nightclub in the United States, until Ray Lewis came in one fateful Sunday night, which is another story to itself. But I'll tell you a good network story about that too. I think that might be in the book. Oh, it is in the book. But, it's when I started getting away from those people and getting around people that really did it. And I started to have some decent success in my early 30s. But when I got on The Apprentice and I took a look around at what some of these people were making, I realized that it's not about flex. It's not about that. It's about maximizing your own personal potential for what you're doing. Because I very quickly realized a couple of things. Number one, I'm probably smarter than most of the people I was on the show with. And I don't say that from a place of ego. It's just pretty obvious talking to people. You know when you're like, okay, there's some dim bulbs here.
Yeah.
But there were people.
And they obviously set up the show. Yeah. They structure the show in a way to make it entertaining.
Sure.
That's their job. Yeah.
Totally. But there were some people there that were absolutely making millions of dollars. So I was like, how am I smarter than some of these people? And they're making so much more than me. I said in a podcast the other day, I would not be surprised if when I got on the show, I was probably making the least of everybody on the show. Because, me, I'm a good salesman. There was a lot of hustle that went into me getting on the show, right? But it wouldn't surprise me at all to know that I was the least financially fit of all the people there. But when I changed that group and started really pushing forward, that's when I realized, like, okay, nobody's coming to save me, right? I love the movie Die Hard which is the best Christmas movie ever made, by the way, in case anybody wants to argue that point. But I love that scene where he's like, "Come out, nobody's coming to save you." And I thought through my whole 20s, my whole life, I always thought somebody was going to save me, and I projected that into girls that I was dating, waiting around for my father to say to me, I was like John C. Reilly from Step Brothers, where I'm like, I'm going to get in the family business. And my dad's like, you didn't go to law school. What are you talking about? You're not going to get in the family business. But that's kind of how I thought. Like, there's going to be some windfall of money when my father, like, there was always something coming that didn't involve any personal accountability or action from me. And I think so many people live their life that way. So the purpose of the book is to wake as many people up as I can to that, especially now when you look at what's happening with the speed of AI and so many people's jobs are at risk and they're just sticking their head in the sand. Like, you've got to get control of your life now, because if you let somebody else design your life, I promise you, you're not going to like the result. Well,
the bottom line is that nobody is coming to save you.
No,
you know, I think it's really difficult for people to wrap their minds around. And especially like if you are somebody who has not been afforded a lot of opportunity in life, I think it's almost easier for you just to point the finger and just say like, well, because I'm not this, or because I didn't come from money, or because of this, you know, background or this part of my life, then I'm not going to get this opportunity. But these other people, they just get opportunity. And you start realizing that the people who get opportunity are the people mostly who just create opportunity and then take advantage of the opportunity. Like, there's not a magical day where somebody's just going to see you in the Walmart parking lot and be like, it's you.
You're the guy.
We've been looking for you.
We've been looking for you. You're the guy.
Right, yeah. Like,
you're the guy.
Here's your $500,000 salary and your company car. Yeah. Like, it's not, that day's not coming.
It's not coming. It's funny because I got a review on my book from Publishers Weekly, because when you put your book out through a publisher, like, there's the book buyers, reviewers, right? Okay, so Publishers Weekly is a company that reviews books. And I got a call from my publisher and they said, okay, we got a review from Publishers Weekly. And I said, okay. And he goes, there's some good to it. When he said that, I was like, well, that's not good. So I read it through the first time. And it ends up, the last phrase of it is, his advice is trite, is what it is. And I thought to myself, man, that's really bad. And I slept on it that night. I was actually kind of depressed because you put so much effort into something and then a critic comes out and says that. The next day I read it again. And the line before that, I love this bad review. I love it. I am tickled with it. And here's why. Because the line before that said that my advice is trite. And the reason they gave that was because I refuse to believe the myriad systematic problems that the world presents, and I present every problem as solvable. When I read that, I thought to myself, anybody that believes that, that is an editorial belief that the world and the system and everything has stacked the deck against your success. As soon as I read that as an editorial piece from whoever wrote this, I thought to myself, if they believe that, of course they hated my book.
Right, of course.
Of course they did. Because, dude, just like you sitting in here with my podcast, how many stories have you heard from people that have absolutely no business being near the success that they're about?
Right.
I got off a boat from Vietnam when I was 18 and couldn't speak the language, and now I'm a real estate mogul.
Right.
You know, I've heard story after story after story that these people have no business because they chose not to buy into the fact that the system is stacked against them. Yeah. That's a cop-out to me. When I read that, I loved it.
Even with people like that too, they even have some sort of like naivety about the fact that they weren't supposed to succeed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't grow up in the culture that told them that they had this disadvantage, therefore you won't be successful unless somebody gives you the opportunity to be.
Yeah.
Like they weren't even aware that they had those limitations. So if you operate under the assumption that you don't have them, good things tend to happen, you know?
And every single person that I've asked that's been in that situation, I ask two questions really. Like, do you feel like you're lucky for that? And every single one of them says, no, I worked my ass off for this.
Right.
I earned this. And then I also say, what do you say to people that are born in this country that say that this country does not afford them opportunity? And they're always like, it makes my blood absolutely boil.
Yeah.
Because if they spent 5 minutes where I came from.
Exactly. Yeah.
All of a sudden they would be like, you want to go to Cuba and then come here and tell me that this is not the land of plenty here? You're nuts. But yeah, when I saw that, like, listen, if you are somebody that genuinely in your heart wants to believe that there's the corporate boogeyman, the government, your skin tone, whatever it is out to get you and put you behind the 8 ball, this ain't for you.
Right. Yeah. And the bottom line is like, all the way back to, I think it was Henry Ford who said this, was whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, no question.
The bottom line is it's what you decide to internalize, which is the problem that I have is like broader society of just like pinpointing certain groups and saying that you're marginalized and you're attacked because of this certain, background, or like you said, skin color or whatever it is. My only issue with that is, like, even if it's true, it's not helpful. Like that to me, like, it violates one of my rules of a good value or a good philosophy, a good life philosophy, which to me is like, is it useful? Is it valuable? And does it hurt other people?
Yeah.
And if it is useful, it doesn't hurt other people, it is valuable, it doesn't hurt other people, do that thing. But some of these, philosophies that people govern their lives by don't check off that first box, which is a very important box to check. Believing something because you might see some evidence to believe it, but it's completely not useful for your life and completely negates the ability to create the life that you want. Why choose to believe that thing? Just look for evidence that supports the opposite, and you can believe that just as readily as you can believe the other thing.
Because I'll tell you why people do it, because I did that, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say I was, disadvantaged. It was just me telling myself a story that because I didn't graduate from college, because the bar went down, because I didn't do this, because it was always something that I was missing out of myself was the excuse. Because those reasons that people tell themselves those things are comforting. It's like a warm blanket to wrap yourself up with by not meeting your own potential. Yeah. It's comfort is what it is.
To explain your own failure.
Yeah. The growth is never comfortable. It's not meant to be comfortable. And most people would rather be comfortable in their misery than uncomfortable in their future success.
Yeah.
I did it.
Right.
And until you start to see, I think I think the biggest problem is commiserating with others that do that. Because the people that do that are surrounded by people that do that.
That's right. Yeah.
So it becomes an echo chamber of, okay, this is just how it is. So we're all miserable because we're all miserable.
Right.
So when it talks about systematic issues that oppress people, I would say it's more or less the opinion of those around you than it is the actual reality of the situation. Yeah. I heard something. I'm going to butcher his name if I try to say it, but it was a Russian philosopher that was talking about the universe balancing itself out and balancing desire out. And if you overly desire something, well, it raises like it raises the energy level of trying to get it. And the universe is going to balance that out by making it harder. Is essentially what he says. And he says, reality is existing on like multiple planes at the same time. And which plane that you're on or which plane that you see is based on your perception of reality of something is. Correct. So if you just assume that something is some way, it's kind of like the law of attraction. But if you just assume that this is how it is, if you assume that you are likable, then you are going to be on the plane of existence where you are likable.
Right.
If you believe you are unlikable, then that's where you're going to be.
Yep.
And all of these things are existing at multiple times. And it was obviously I was tired when I was reading this because I needed something to put me to sleep. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting, because it really does. I think what you expect out of life, you get.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect a lot back in the day. I just wanted to be cool.
Yeah, right. And that pursuit ended up not being very cool.
No, that pursuit got me, it was like we talked about always coming to save me. It was, my early 20s, it was women. It was like, okay, cool. There was so many times when I started dating a girl and inside of like 3 weeks, I'm moving into her place. Right. And it was always because she's going to take care of me. She's going to do this. And it was always just bouncing from kind of girl to girl and doing that. It was women when I was younger. And then, it was really this philosophy of, okay, I can always get bailed out by my dad. It was always a safety net that I thought that I had. And then eventually my dad was just like, no, we're not doing this anymore. You need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It was my 25th birthday. I'll never forget this, because I plan on doing it to my son, which is my dad called me on my 25th birthday and he said, happy dumbass birthday. That's what he said to me, 7 a.m. So what does that mean? Happy dumbass birthday. And he goes, well, yesterday you were a 24-year-old kid. There's no such thing as a 25-year-old kid. Today you're a grown man. You do something stupid today, you're just a dumbass.
Yeah.
Yesterday you got to pass. Passes are over. Time to grow up.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Still took me a while to figure that out.
I was going to say, so how many dumbass decisions were after that? Yeah.
More than I care to admit. More than I care to admit. Good Lord.
I remember we were having dinner one time. I think it was when we did a couple dinners with just like a bunch of us out here in Vegas, and which I think ended up resulting in you having that Rolls out there. was one of those, the result of one of those dinners.
Dude, yeah, Nick Dosa from Vegas Auto Gallery. Dude, he's just relentless with that stuff, right? Like you pull up, what are you driving? You can't drive that piece of shit. I'm like, you sold me this car.
Like a year ago.
Yeah, like a year ago, it was the greatest car ever.
MC20.
Yeah, and now you're giving me grief about it. And then before dinner, if you recall, before dinner was over, it wasn't the one I have now.
Okay.
No, dude. He made a call, came up. The dude stole my car out of valet, and left a $550,000 Spectre.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Don't get me wrong. Like, okay, for example, it's when you're in your 20s. This is gonna be terrible, but it's kind of why you date strippers in the early 20s. It's like, yeah, like if somebody brings this, like it's like yes. Everybody gets to see it,
right.
But you're still going to hang out with it anyway, even if it's for temporary, it's short term. When he brought that Rolls up, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm not buying this car, but I'm going to drive the hell out of it for about 4 days. And no, and it ended up buying a different one that's equally sort of was ridiculous, but definitely wasn't $550,000.
Yeah, so it was at one of those dinners, and I remember you and I were talking, and I had just taken a big L at that time, and we're just kind of talking through like, hey, well, what does it look like next? What are we going to do next? And you said something about how you're like every successful guy that I know has a story where they've lost at least $1 million in something. Yeah, and that's just a fact. Yeah, like it's only a matter of time. My question to you is when do you feel like you took the biggest L in the past? 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, and how long in the shit? Like how long were you just in the shit and not able to come out?
Yeah. So the biggest L is relative. And what I mean by that is like when I took a $100,000 hit when I was 24 I'm sorry. I took a $100,000 hit when I was like 28 or 29. And that $100,000 hit almost wiped me completely off the board. I mean, it was really bad. $1 million hit, I've taken a couple of those over the last couple of years, but now when I do my risk evaluation, I do my decision making, I'm never going to make a move that's going to destroy me.
Yeah.
But the hardest one probably was we did a house flipping fund here in Vegas in 2017. My partner, it was bad all the way around, right? It was way too much. The capital velocity was way too fast. We bought 87 houses within like 3 weeks.
Wow.
So we have 87 flips going on in Vegas, and the trades are incredibly hard to come by. And so it's just, they were sitting and we were getting eaten alive by the interest.
Yeah. Because
we were levered to like 10 million on the fund that we had 2 million. We'd raised 2 million through Realty Shares, which was a crowdsourcing platform. And then we had, 800,000 of our own money in it. It was going. And that went south really, really quickly. And my partner ended up kind of just leaving the state with all of the money.
No shit.
So, which is a lawsuit literally still going today.
Wow.
Hopefully you're going to settle soon, but still going after 7 years. But the biggest problem I had with that one was all of the people that had done the investment, the 750,000, which was a lot, they were personal friends of mine.
Yeah.
They weren't his people. They were my people.
Right.
And I made all of them whole. And so making them whole was a challenge quickly. And not to mention that, but because of some of the work that was done on the houses, there was 5 or 6 lawsuits that I was left to defend because he was gone and I was here. One of the people, even though I had nothing to do with the flip, 6 o'clock news, they do like an investigates for these people that like here I am on the news,
right?
Like, hey, I'm not responsible for this, but I am accountable. We're going to get it fixed, right? We're going to do all this. So that was about a 1 point all in, probably $1.5 million loss. But the capital of it was not just the money. It was because I was in it. It was the emotional stress of the lawsuits and all of that stuff, and having, these people that trusted you and coming out of the back of it, settling everything, making everything right with all these houses, paying all of our people off. There's nobody out there anywhere that can say that they've ever invested a nickel with me and lost it. Yeah. Nobody can say that. And a lot of people would be like, well, no, it was an investment. You know what you're getting into, and there you go. I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. Because I just knew that I'd gotten him into it, and it didn't go south because it was just a bad deal. It went south because of what happened.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's why I was really responsible.
Yeah. You felt like it wasn't the risk of the investment that didn't pan out.
It's just how it was handled that went south.
Right.
That was probably the biggest hit. But, I'll say this. People love their plaques and trophies in their office. My office is full of failures. Yeah. I love that. The one that almost took me off the board at 28 was we tried to start a nutritional supplement company. I lost $100,000. I have I call it my $100,000 bottle of vitamins. I have the last bottle of vitamins from that sitting on my desk. But there's a lesson in that, right? There's a lesson in all of it. And the lesson for that is we wouldn't bought a warehouse full of vitamins before we asked anybody if anybody wanted to buy them.
Right.
So I will never go to market with a product again before testing. This is before, now you can use Kickstarter and see what kind of interest you got and everything, which is great. My other favorite trophy that I have that's probably a lost trophy is I have a script in my office that's framed because after The Apprentice, I get a phone call from somebody that was like David Flabot, who was a writer of Will and Grace.
Okay.
All right. And a bunch of other sitcoms, had seen me on The Apprentice and loved me. And so they said, okay, David wants you to read for his new sitcom.
Nice.
It's on NBC. So I'm like, what is this? What's going on? So I call my buddy who's like an actual actor in LA, and I've told him the name of the casting director in New York. And I told him he was like, dude, that's for real. You need, say yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's scratch a lottery ticket. So they FedExed me the script because it was all hush hush and they weren't electronically delivering anything. They FedExed it to me. And I opened the script, and on page 2, they want me to read for the lead of this thing. It's called Goody's Place.
Wow.
They already had the guy that played Big Pussy on The Sopranos was going to be the uncle and whatever. So I open the page and I get to In Comes Goody. And this is the description of Goody. I'll never forget. It says like mid-30s, boyish charm, slightly overweight, but by no means man candy. And I was like, oh my God. And dude, keep in mind, that's when I was really fit, right? I was like, what? I'm like, this is just insane that this, like, my ego just instantly.
Yeah.
So a couple pages later, as I'm reading this script, and her cousin Vint, or whatever his cousin's name was, and it said, loud, obnoxious, tall, think Vince Vaughn from Swingers. And so I'm like, dude, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, right?
Yeah.
Especially at that time before both of us looked like chewed bubblegum. But no, I was like, okay, cool. They say this is wrong. So I go to New York. They fly me up there. I go to the casting office, and there was a person in there with a camera just like this. And then there was the casting director, and she's sitting there with a pad. And I walk in and I go, excuse me, I believe there's been a mistake. And she's like, I'm sorry? And I'm like, yeah, you wanted me to read for this, but I think what you meant was you wanted me to read for this. And I'll never forget it because the camera guy behind the camera just like does one of these. He looks at me, this look like, who the hell is this dude? And then the lady looks at me and goes, just like this, she goes, you can read for whatever you want. I was like, oh.
I feel like we've got off on the wrong foot.
No. So I read for the wrong role, and they're like, thank you. Never heard another word about it. Thank God they didn't make that show. Can you imagine this? Like the greatest show ever. But that's when I realized never assume that you know what people want. Because when I called my buddy back about it, he goes, no, those descriptions are just like placeholders. They don't matter. They don't matter. It's not really what they're looking. It's just he want, like, what are you doing? So blew that opportunity that thank God never turned anything because I made an assumption without really understanding what people wanted. Yeah. And that is a lesson. Like if I make an expensive or a stupid lesson, I tend not to repeat it.
Yeah, right. Well, it says a lot to just memorialize those things because most people just want to package it up and you want to go to the Sahara Desert and you want to bury it down 100 feet below the dirt and never let anybody see it.
Nope.
And but if you do that, you tend to not learn from it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, look, we're on a podcast about me writing a book about success. We've talked about me losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, getting a terrible review on the book, and not getting a sitcom already.
That's it.
Yep. This book. Buy the book.
Wraps this episode.
All of these lessons are in the book, and so I cannot repeat them.
Ahmed, so nightclub life. Let's go to that real quick before we talk kind of real estate and these days. So you're running a nightclub. This is like late 20s?
Yeah, this is 28 probably. I get a phone call, 27, 28. I get a phone call. I was a multi-unit dude for Hooters America, and some friends of mine had opened up a club in Buckhead, the Buckhead area of Atlanta when it was a thing, the Buckhead Village, which was kind of like, at the time, was kind of like Bourbon Street. It was a very happening spot. And they had opened up a very large club there, and they just didn't really operationally know how to run a bar that big. It was a big business. And so they called me and I said, yeah, I'll come up and I'll run it for you. And that's fine. I'll bring systems in and we'll get controls of what's going on because it was just so much money and it was nuts. I mean, Bank of America would call me on Monday morning if I didn't bring our money over by like 10 because they used all of our money to fill their ATMs for like the whole city. Like, are you coming yet? Like, what's going on? Blah, blah, it was crazy. And part of that was Sunday night, everything in Buckhead was closed. except for we didn't technically have a bar or restaurant license, or I'm sorry, bar or nightclub license. We had a restaurant license, even though we didn't sell food at all. We had like cheese plates or something.
Yeah.
So we were open on Sundays. And on Sunday nights, we had a partnership with Jermaine Dupree of the So Deaf world in Atlanta. And So Deaf would throw a party at Cobalt every Sunday night. And it was a who's who of every athlete, from the Falcons to every rapper to everybody, Michael Jordan, Denzel Washington. I mean, it was everybody you can imagine was in that club on Sunday. And we were doing it incredibly well. Super Bowl came around because of how great we were. We did the NFL Pro Player Party. We did the Playboy Party. We did everything that week. And it went off without a hitch. And we were making so much money. I mean, it was, by nightclub standards today, it was a fraction of what they do today.
Sure.
But back then, we were making a ton of money. And Super Bowl Sunday, there's an altercation in the VIP room. And that night was crazy. I mean, I walked in because we had hidden VIP rooms, not like up on a stage VIP rooms. There was in Florida, I'm sorry, that part of the world, you'd have like Miami VIP rooms, which are like, here's a stage where everybody can see you. Or you had like, which would be equivalent of by the DJ booth, I guess now. Yeah. Or you had hidden rooms where nobody could see you. Those were like New York. And all of our VIP rooms were like New York. You're just away from people. So I walk into the two best stories from that night. I walk down into the VIP room and I look around and I've got NSYNC, Christina Aguilera. I've got Augie Bush IV, who's the heir to the Budweiser fortune. I've got Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan standing at the bar playing dollar poker. Stack of ones. And I look around this room and I'm just like, this is like that Boulevard of Dreams painting with like, this is insane that this is going on. So I go walking up the stairs and a rapper named DeBrat from Atlanta was coming down the stairs. And any other Sunday in the world, DeBrat would have been in that room. Not tonight. Yeah. Not tonight. So I was like, whoa, you got to go back up those stairs. And she goes, it's all good, homie. I'm DeBrat. And I said, I don't care if you're the Pope. You're not going in that room tonight. So she left. But anyway, late in the night, late, like 1:30, it goes over the radio from the security guys. Hey, there's a big fight in the VIP room upstairs. So we cleared everybody out. We're like, man, it's probably 2:30. We were supposed to be up until 4. We're like, we have made all our money. We don't even care at this point. We're exhausted. It's been a week. Let's just shut the bar down. Nothing gets broken. Clear everybody out. We clear everybody out. We're sitting there with everybody. We're doing a champagne toast. And then we always employ police officers to like help us control the crowds. And Purvis was the name of the cop, comes walking in the door. And we're doing a toast. The club's empty at this point. We're an hour after we closed. And Purvis walks in and goes, somebody just got stabbed out front down by Dixie Tavern, which is 2 blocks down the street from us. And we're like, oh man, it's like, yeah, it's bad. They didn't make it. I was like, man, that's not good. So of course, whoever called 911 first thing they were not from Atlanta. So on the 911 call, they didn't know where they were, but they had been at our club. Yeah. They'd been at our club. So they're like, no, we're at Cobalt. We're at Cobalt. So the 911 call that went out said, I'm at Cobalt. I'm at Cobalt. I'm at Cobalt. And it turns out that the person that was involved in that was Ray Lewis and his friends, which now made national news and went everywhere. The next morning, I came to work probably when it broke that he was involved. And there were 30 news trucks from everything in front wanting statements. And it was like that scene where like you peek out the windows and it's like, all the cameras go off and they're like yelling for a comment. It's like, this is bad. This is really, really bad. You know, I told my dad, I said, hey, I think I'm finally going to be on SportsCenter, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. Sorry about that. But no, and that place never really recovered. Ever.
Wow.
And then
crazy one incident like that.
Yeah, it wasn't
bad. Even in front of your
anybody that says that no press, and we had actually had T-shirts that said anybody that says any press is good press never ran the Cobalt Lounge. I mean, it was just it nuked that place. I felt bad for the owners. I felt bad for everybody, and because I was the highest paid guy there, I was the first expendable, and out I went.
Yeah.
The worst part about that story, I'll tell you the worst part about it. Like you brought up networking earlier as a chapter in the book. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in networking was you just never know who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. Like you in a social setting where you're meeting people or you're in an event, don't ever say anything negative about anybody, even if it's an anecdote or what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm in Dallas at a real estate event. And I'm talking to this guy at the bar, and he was really cool.
This was around that time, or is this recent?
No, this is a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I'm talking to this black guy at the bar at this real estate event. He's super cool, and we're just talking about blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, said something about something, and somebody said Atlanta. I said, oh, I used to live in Atlanta. I said, what'd you do? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I used to run the Cobalt Lounge. So Ray Lewis murdered some people, like just off the cuff, right? Is me being quippy and funny, thinking it was fun. But an hour later, I'm talking to this guy about, I'm like, cool, but you know, he overheard me say it. And I'm like, oh, give me your Instagram, which is the new entrepreneur way. There's no business cards. It's give me the gram. And I go look at his Instagram, right? And I'm not talking about pages down. I'm talking about 3 to 8 pictures in. is him with Ray Lewis. And I'm not talking about like, I saw Ray and I got a quick selfie. I'm talking about like, we're playing racquetball, right? I mean, he's like friends with Ray. And this dude was so gracious. He never said a word about it, but I was so embarrassed. Because here I was thinking I was being funny, and it was probably incredibly insulting. So, networking. Don't say dumb shit. Just can't.
The nuke that drops in your career at that time had to be something where you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Well, yeah. So I went from there, and again, it was one of those back again, because even then when I said we were making a ton of money, the owners were. I wasn't.
Yeah, right. You got paid your salary.
My stroke was comp. I could walk into any restaurant or bar in Atlanta and get comped and get whatever, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
But then I thought immediately, because I was doing this, I'm going to be in hot demand to run a nightclub. No, nobody came and saved me. Nobody came and got me. You know, it didn't happen. I wound up doing a deal that ended up being a bad deal with some other guys on another bar. That ended up not going my way because I didn't paper it properly. And so went out of that. But when that happened, now is kind of when my story turns into sales, because I was 27, 28 years old. I had like probably bleeding ulcers. My diet was Maker's Mark and cigarettes. I was working 100 hours a week, and it was just like killing myself. My doctor's like, you need a life change. Like, you can't keep doing this, because restaurants and bars, especially nightclubs, is 100 hours a week. So I called my buddy Rick Wells, who was vice president of WorldCom at the time, and I was like, hey, I want to come sell telecom with you. He was like, bro, you don't have any sales experience. I can't hire you off the street. Come on, what are you talking about? He's like, you need to go get sales experience. He's like, you can either go sell Kirby vacuum cleaners or you can sell cars. That's what you can do. Either way, you have a PhD in sales in 90 days. I'm like, there's no chance I'm going to sell for Kirby vacuum cleaners.
Those dudes are savages.
I know, dude, they are. They are. Nothing against that. If you've done that, it's a great training program. But so I went and sold cars. And sure enough, man, it was like a duck to water. That first month selling cars, I sold 30 new cars in a month, which is like bowling a perfect game.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, just doesn't happen. They immediately moved me up to Highline, and I was doing that. And I did after 90 days. I lasted 90 days there, and then I quit to go do the nutritional supplement company. But it was funny. It was the first time that I realized, probably there was the first time I realized that it was the first time I was ever in really high demand. Like, understanding that a skill set could translate into high demand. Yeah, I was good at what I did for my corporate restaurant gig, and I was good at what I did at the bar. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when the P&L said you're expendable, you're expendable.
Right.
So mastering a skill to the point where you are not expendable is such value.
We're like, there's always a spot for you here.
Bro, when I quit, I made up a story. I don't know why I made up a story. I just did. Sean Azadnia, great guy, nice guy, was the general manager of the dealerships. And I said, hey man, my roommates all moved out, so I'm going to move back to Florida. I can't afford my place. And he's like, how many roommates do you have? I'm like, I have 4. He goes, I'll be your roommate. I was like, what? He goes, I'll be the best roommate you ever saw.
Please stay.
He goes, I'll pay 4/5 of all your bills.
Yeah.
And you'll never see me.
Yeah.
I'll never once come over.
Right.
Nothing. You'll never see me. I'll just pay 4/5 of all the bills. And I was like, and in that moment,
also
I realized,
a good sales guy.
Well, I realized
knocking off objections.
I'm making a bunch of money for these dudes.
Yeah, right.
Right. And that's when I really learned the value of mastering a skill. Because once you have that, you become a commodity and not a line item on a P&L. Yeah. Where so many people are line items on P&L.
That's exactly right, man. That's upskilling is your path to increased earnings. Like you just, it's just simple supply demand economics. If there's 100 million people who can do your job, then you're probably getting paid minimum wage.
Yeah.
If there's a dozen people who can do your job, you're probably making good money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, without question.
It's just numbers.
Well, and I think too, is why I always, part of the book is I don't go deep into it, but I give people a rough overview of just some simple tips to be better salespeople, because you're always selling. I don't care if it's at a singles bar trying to meet a woman, or with your kids when they're negotiating, trying to get them to go to bed. You're always selling. And the better you are at that, the further you go in life. Because one of the things that as AI comes for all of us, one of the things that it won't be able to replace is that human connection, that ability to connect with others and move them to a decision that they ultimately do want, but they need to be moved towards.
That's what I was going to say is, like, I think AI in certain sales contexts will probably start will at some point be good enough to replace people, but there's some things that it's not ever going to replicate, which is the connection to another human being. And I think some people are going to be hardwired to need that in order to be able to make a decision for whatever it is that they're trying to do. And then it also creates opportunity for the things that will be sold that for like selling the AI. You know, like even if the technology gets to the point where it's like, well, we built this sort of AI consultative sales rep or whatever. It's like, okay, but then probably there's going to be a person that's selling that, or you have to sell the idea to the market, or you have to sell, you know what I mean? Like it's not ever going to be fully, completely replaced.
One of my good friends is a corporate change agent. He goes into major corporations all around the world when they're making massive changes within their corporation and helps like package it and sell it to the employees and get rid of the people that aren't going along and, and make sure that it gets implemented right. And we were talking about AI because so many companies are implementing AI across the board. And he's like, it's a disaster. And I tell them this is a disaster. They're doing it wrong. He goes, they're using AI to replace the most customer-facing jobs that they have. Dialing customer service, the front-facing stuff. Think about the grocery store, now self-checkout. All of these things is where their highest touch point to the consumer is what they're replacing. Right. And the problem with AI, and we use it in real estate, I have used it, but the problem with AI is AI starts with logic. It begins with logic, and it's trying to get to emotion. Human beings start with emotion and try to get to logic. Right. So for lack of a better phrase, it's like Kirk and Spock having a conversation. Right. Where there's this gap that they haven't been able to get there yet. And even if with the conversational AIs that we're seeing in the real estate industry with sales, I test everything because, you know, we have 550 agents that work for us. So it's my job to kind of test this stuff because they're always asking, does this work? Right. And what I can tell you is the people that are convertible by an AI real estate bot that's calling, I don't care how good people tell you it is, they are not sophisticated people. Yeah. They're not sophisticated buyers. They're not sophisticated clients. So anybody with a brain knows they're talking to a bot very quickly. So we turned it off because it's just not there. Because I tested it a little bit and was like, this is blowing my clients out. Right. Because the clients can think, dude, especially in real estate, when it's like, this is the largest single thing I'm ever going to buy and you can't even bother to call me?
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's just going to be like a natural progression where it's going to require a generation of buyers to move out of the market in order for that to be more readily available. Meaning that like it's going to be not even like Gen Z. It's going to be generation, what is that, Gen Alpha that's after Gen Z. Like people, you have to have like this mass adoption of people who grow up used to talking to AI. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that generation may in 40 years from now be totally fine with transacting with, especially because AI is going to be way better by then, obviously, like at light years better, exponentially better. But also people my age, even like, you know, I'm still in my early 30s. I'm a, you know, younger millennial. And then Gen Z coming up right behind me. It's like, even Gen Z, like they didn't grow up with AI. They grew up with social media, which you know factors into how they operate in the world and the sophistication that they have. But the generation, like my kids, you know, my 6-year-old, my 4-year-old, they'll grow up with AI. You know what I mean? And they might be more apt to make decisions. Maybe not a house purchase, but like buying a shirt or something like that on a website. You know, like that stuff I think is going to be completely like a lot of these lower ticket things that still touch a person will probably not have to touch a person.
But on the same token, like I tell my kids now who are part of that, you know, Gen Z, the greatest skill you can have is going to be your ability to look at another human being across the table and connect with them in a personal way.
Yes.
Right?
Like 100%.
Yeah, because they're all face down in the phone.
Well, and I think we're going to see a resurgence of the in-person connection piece because it's going to take thousands of years to wire that out of our biology.
You're wired to be tribal.
Right, exactly. We are social creatures. We need the connection. In fact, there's physiological detrimental effects of loneliness in terms of what it actually does to your physical being. Like double-digit increase in all-cause mortality from loneliness by itself, which is pretty insane to think about. Like you think of loneliness in terms of like a mental health issue. You think it might increase, you know, it makes sense that it would increase whatever, depression, anxiety, even suicide, things like that, right? But you don't think of it from actually affecting our physical body, but it's so hardwired into our biology that it can't help but affect those things. And so I think the generations that are coming up are going to start having this sort of realization that we need each other. And if you have neglected the sharpening of the skill set of being able to communicate with people, then you're going to be, starting from scratch when by the time this starts to be realized by younger generations.
Yeah.
We might even see people who in the future set up their own, technology-less communities type of a thing to get back to that.
I think you're already starting to see some of that. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems people have right now, as far as like being stuck or drifting or doing whatever, is dopamine addiction.
Yeah.
I think it's shocking. And even, dude, there are days, and I think we can all admit this. I think if you don't admit this, you're lying. There's days when I'm on my phone and maybe it's Saturday or Sunday and football's on, whatever, blah, blah, and I'm just scrolling and I just realize I don't even care what I'm doing.
Yep.
Like, I don't care. None of this matters.
It's addict
and
behavior.
I'm still doing it. And then I get freaked out and like throw the phone across the room.
Right.
I'm like Pookie from New Jack City where I'm like shaking. You know what I mean?
That's always a red flag to me when I start realizing that I'm like watching a movie or a football game or something like that, something that I actually care to watch.
Yeah.
And then I catch myself picking up my phone to do something like, and it's not something specific. It's just to scroll. It's like, so I'm literally just I'm at the point where like this particular part of the thing that I'm watching is not quite captivating enough for me. So I need to pull out my phone to see if I could find something more captivating before the next scene comes on where it might be good enough to potentially capture my attention again. It was like you said, like one of those just like, get out of here.
Well,
like, I go put my phone in the other room now,
that
when I watch
dopamine
football
addiction, we're raising an entire generation of bored kids.
Yeah.
They're all bored.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm bored. I'm so bored. This is boring. I'm bored. It's because you're just used to getting.
Yeah, well, they're not bored is the problem.
Yeah,
so when they get bored, like they think that boredom is something that they shouldn't ever feel.
Yes,
and that's a problem.
Yeah,
yeah. Boredom is actually great for your brain development too. To have to come up with things to do, to think about something to do, like that is required almost for healthy brain development. So it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be a weird place, man.
If it isn't already, it's getting weirder by the day.
Yeah, exactly. But I do have faith.
Do you watch like the Black Mirror? Do you watch that?
I've not seen Black Mirror.
Dude,
no.
It's like the dystopian future. My wife like watched one episode and now she just walks out of the room when it's on. It's such a bleak glimpse of the future. It's like, oh God, it's well,
that's like they do different things every season, right? That's
every
not like
show
one
is
continuous.
Different. Every show is different.
Okay.
It's kind of, you can just drop in any show you want.
Any episode?
Any episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's not a continuous thing. There's only been like 2 of them that they continue to into another episode. But yeah, it is just a dark view of like the dystopian future of what can happen. That it's just wild. And what's funny is some of the stuff that they show is like for example, happened in real estate today, which is really weird. So like, for example, there was an episode that says that all of a sudden they started doing, this girl flips on like Netflix.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is it? And the name of the show is like Karen is Awful is what the name of the show. And it's a fictional drama of her actual life, everything she's doing. Cause like they're watching, cause Big Brother's watching with every camera in the world and they're reenacting her actual life on TV and it's on. And she's like, how are they doing this? Like she goes to a lawyer and they're like, yeah, well, you remember like when you first signed up for it and you scrolled to the bottom of that disclaimer, the terms and conditions? Well, it said that like they can technically use your likeness and use this for AI to create a show about you and there's nothing she can do. Yeah. And it was just wild. But like, for example, in real estate today, so Zillow is always, if you're in real estate, you're a realtor, Zillow is always like Big Brother enemy. It's the enemy. And they have been quietly buying up all of these realtor tools over the years, like CRMs and showing assistants and all these different platforms they're buying. And when they bought one called Follow Up Boss a couple of years ago, right? They called Follow Up Boss, which a lot of people use. And they said, look, we're going to keep it totally separate. We're keeping the data separate. This is here. This is here. And then slowly it changed to, well, we can use the data. And keep in mind, the data is your clients.
Right.
So they've slowly changed the terms and conditions to now include, if you have a client that also has an account on Zillow, which is millions and millions of people, well, then that's not really your client. That's our client.
Damn.
So now we have the right to use any activity or any data or any information that we're getting from your CRM, like notes you put in for what they're looking for or their time frame or when they're going to move.
Wow.
And it goes right. They have the right to do it. They own it. So there was this crazy, mad, frantic push today for people to try to cancel Follow Up Boss. And you should.
Yeah.
That's crazy because it's just one little terms and condition change.
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden your entire business is in the hands of someone else.
That you're giving directly to your main competitor.
Yes, that you're paying you're paying them for the privilege of doing that.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, they're just like all the other tech companies, man. They extort the people they claim to help.
Yeah, you've got to control your data.
Yeah,
got to control your data in any business.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy. I also saw that they made a partnership with ChatGPT or something recently. I think that's going to get challenged. Okay. I think you'll see that get challenged pretty quickly, and the reason being is because all brokerages, like we're a brokerage, we essentially syndicate our data through the MLS to Zillow, which means that they're allowed to take our data, which is our photographs, our listing descriptions, our listing information, and they're allowed to display it on Zillow. Yeah.
That is where that is the agreement that data is allowed to be used there. Well, Zillow doesn't own ChatGPT. That's a completely separate company.
Right.
So how are you using our data to give to another company on a deal so you're reselling our data to another company, which is a violation of their agreement. So you're going to see that one in court pretty quick.
Yeah.
But see, that's the problem when you're a behemoth company like this. It's like, let's just do it.
Right.
And then by the time we have to stop, it'll be too late.
Yeah. Well, and they have very deep pockets.
Yeah. Genius they got a lot of problems right now. They're getting sued from every direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. The mob that is the, Association of Realtors is like the largest association in the entire world, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Don't get me started on that. I mean, if you're a realtor and that's a whole nother story, man. I have my own opinions. I think the local associations have a purpose. I think they're good because you get.
Well, it's like federal government versus local government.
Yes. You get contract control. You get, think about that. There's 15,000 realtors here. There's probably 1,500, 2,000 brokers, including the one-man shops. What if everybody was using different purchase contracts?
Yeah.
Well, now you're taking a bunch of people that literally took a 63-hour course and passed the test with an 80. That's a C. You're taking these people and now you're turning them into pocket lawyers.
Of course, that doesn't teach anything about actually
nothing
real
about
estate.
it. So now you're turning them into a pocket attorney.
Yeah. Right.
As a broker that, somebody that like I take on all the liability for all 550 of our people.
Right.
No way. So having the consistency of that contract is clutch.
Sure.
Having the arbitration clause where it has to go to arbitration before it turns a lawsuit, that's clutch. So a lot of value at the local level. National level,
yeah.
Nah, I'd rather have my money back.
Yeah. Right. Well, they're there to bully the Zillows of the world.
Yeah. Well, not really. It's the Redfins. It's not the Redfins. It's the Compasses of the world.
Mm.
Who those guys? That consolidation they just did was wild. They just bought.
I didn't see that.
They just bought Anywhere.
Oh, really?
So now Robert Refkin and Compass own Century 21, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker.
Wait, what?
All Better Homes and Gardens. They bought all of those brands. Anywhere was all of those brands. ERA. Now Compass owns all of that.
Wow.
They are now
I didn't realize Compass was that big to be able to buy those brands.
Yeah, I mean they're Wall Street backed. Always has been.
That's wild.
It was a huge. Now, granted, there's a lot of debt there, but they essentially just became the biggest player in the game. So now they can now they're like, okay, Zillow. Now we can dictate to you what's going to happen because we can just pull all of our listings from all of our brands and there's nothing you can do about it.
So essentially now it's like Compass, EXP, Keller Williams.
No, I mean,
Real.
You see those companies that are out there and there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. And like anything else, the person that stands on top of the pyramid is normally the one that's, there's two kinds of people that stand on top of the pyramids and people that lug the rucks up the side of the up the pyramid. There's a lot of boulder movers in some of those companies. And there's some people that make great money on them. Right. Every brokerage is different. I don't disparage any company for their model or what they do. I mean, it's just different.
I just mean in terms of like big players in the space.
Yeah. It is David and Goliath now compared to those guys. Those guys are massive. I mean, you're talking about they now control, I think it was 67% of the entire listings in the United States now controlled.
Wow. I did not see that happened.
Yeah, it's massive. It was a massive acquisition and it was like one of those, so
do you think people are going to start doing more of the like go local? Like what, like if you're in Vegas,
I don't know.
Does it not make more sense to go work for Simply Vegas than it does to go work for one of these national chains with, all these other people that don't care?
For me, it does.
Well, yeah, of course.
For me, I would say yes.
But for somebody that's not in Vegas, somebody that's in Chicago or somebody that's in Des Moines, Iowa.
I think it totally depends on the reputation in the market, right? Like there's a company, now it's owned by Compass, but there was a company in New Orleans called Ladder and Bloom that just dominated all the high-end stuff. And you never would have heard of it if you lived in Chicago.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. So in each market, there may be a player that plays at that level. There may be a small, something you've never heard of that makes a lot of sense. And I think it depends on what you want to do and who you want to be. Some of the larger companies, and I will give them all the credit in the world. Keller Williams, if you're going to become a new agent, that's where you go work.
Yeah.
If you're a brand new agent, go work at Keller Williams because they will train the hell out of you.
Excellent training. Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's a dreadful place to stay for a long time, but it's a great place to go get an education, right? Like, we don't even hire new agents. Like, you can't be a brand new agent and come work for me. I do not have a new agent training program. I used to own 2 Keller Williams franchises.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I owned 2 Keller Williams, 2 KW franchises before we did Something Vegas.
Okay.
And for me, it was just like, I had those newbies rolling in.
Yeah.
I saw the 90% failure rate, and it was real.
Crazy,
and it was like, we're spending all this energy and time to train these people, and 1 out of 10 is making it.
Right.
Because that's the math. So I was like, well, why don't I get in the 1 out of 10 business instead of the 9 out of 10 business?
Yeah.
That's what we started Simply, where we're just, it's like, look, this is the finishing school of where you come. This is the major leagues. You go figure it out there. And if you can play at this level, then you come see us.
Yeah.
That's how we've always positioned ourselves.
Which is why you did the flat fee.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. With our deal, what we want, when we first designed the company, we said, okay, let's build a company where we want to work. And it's really kind of weird how we compete in the marketplace because we compete heavily in the luxury space. I mean, I'm sure you just saw the RJ article where we sell more homes over $1 million than any other firm. But at the same time, in the fee structures, we're competing against some of your cheaper options for agents. So our philosophy has always been 2 things. Number one, we want a fair deal for what we give, and we give more than most franchises do. We have a great system of what you do, but it's a la carte, get what you want, right? You're not just throwing a shotgun at all of our tech stack. You can pick what you want, choose what you want, get that. And then 2, we're very heavily big believers in vertical integration. I think, we want to be involved with every area where the customer is involved. So we own our own title companies. We own our own mortgage companies. We own all of that because we want to capture as much of that business as we can. And by having great agents work for us, because it's an affordable place to work, if we do a good job for them, we can capture as much of that business as we can. Sure. And you make a lot more money in the financial services sector of real estate than you do in the brokerage business. Yeah. You just do.
Well, listen, man, so many things that you've been able to kind of touch over your career for somebody that is in their 20s, that's starting out. For all the things that you've done, right, and now you're doing, coaching, speaking, podcasting, and, personal brand type stuff, writing books. And then you have real estate, both from the sales perspective and brokerage and owner perspective. And then, restaurants and hospitality and clubs and bars and like all these different things. Is there a place right now where you're looking like, man, if I were in my 20s, like you get into this particular thing, is it a skill? Is it an industry? What are you really looking at? I think right now, if you want to make great money, there's incredible money with learning how to build AI agents, which is not hard to do with NMN, that can automate business operations for small business. If you can go in and do that, you can build these agents, and you could go into any mid-sized business that is heavy with bookkeeping or heavy with email or heavy with just task-oriented things. Support.
Yeah, and you walk into a guy that's in his mid to late 50s, I'm probably an anomaly that I spend so much time looking at tech, and I just do it really because A, it's a passion, and B, because I like it. But how many people do you know in their 50s that are like, oh, bro, it's, I can't, I don't want to figure that out. Right. If you could go into a business and say, I can make you more efficient on a consultant, I can come in and improve all your processes using AI, where it's going to make your people that you have more efficient, it'll make you more money. Yeah. There's a ton of money in that right now. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of money in that. Now, obviously, it's going to be we're about to come into the AI gold rush where there's a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I would definitely be looking at AI prompting. Anybody in any big industry right now says learning AI prompting is a skill that you absolutely have to have. Yeah. But like anything else, I'm also a big believer in the old school stuff. So if you do not own a piece of real estate, start now. Start right now. If you are renting a place, find a place, scrape your money together, find a small place you can buy, rent the other two bedrooms out to your friends. And when you can get that self-sufficient, do that again and then do that again, because real estate is what builds long-term wealth. I think part of the problem with people in their 20s is, and this isn't beating anybody up, this is what I would think it was in my 20s. Dude, you see Instagram and it's like crypto bros with their Lambos and this and that. And why am I not a gazillionaire right now? Right. And the thing I love about real estate is, number one, it's not a zero-sum game. Like crypto with all the altcoins and all that stuff and all of that, in order for someone to win, somebody else has to lose.
Yeah.
You're taking money from this pocket and putting it in that one. It is a zero-sum game. In real estate, you can do a deal that's beneficial to the seller. They're happy. They got what they want. They did a sub-2 deal to you where they're off the payments, whatever it is, and you're in the property for nothing. You can get in there where it's beneficial to all parties. And it builds generational wealth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's the big deal, man, is like nothing beats real estate in terms of long-term wealth. And so if you can get into a place like Simply where you learn the business through the selling of real estate, that's great. But also that's not the game.
Yeah.
The game is the owning of real estate.
Well, that's what we preach all the time is the commissions are not the end game. The commissions are the fuel for the rocket.
That's right.
So you're trying to convert those commissions into tangible assets as quickly as possible. And you see people go out and they buy dumb stuff and you know, it's flex. But it's like, okay, how many houses do you own? That's the question that impresses me. How many doors do you own? Like, tell me that answer. That's what I want to know. You look at guys like Beardy Brandon, who I think you know from Bigger Pockets, who's like have thousands of doors, but you know, yet the dude looks like, you know, he'd be pumping gas on the side of the road in Tennessee. God bless you, Brandon. I love you, dude. You have that dude is way more impressive than the guy in the Louis Vuitton belt and, you know, the $1,200 shoes. Who cares? I don't give a shit.
Right.
So many doors you got. But yeah, it's the best vehicle on earth for tax protection and long-term wealth. And if you're smart, dude, YouTube has been it's just unbelievable how much you can learn from YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have any money to get in real estate.
Right.
Go follow Pace Morby. Just follow Pace. Just that dude will teach you how to get into a house with no money.
Right.
He'll teach you how to do it.
John, appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but I appreciate your friendship and appreciate all the conversations when I'm struggling with stuff. It always means a lot to me. So thanks for coming on the show again. Everybody watching or listening, Escaping the Drift, go pick up a copy. Support John, and plus there's a pack full of wisdom here so you can avoid some of the mistakes that we talked about here on today's episode. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, remember to leave every relationship better than you found it.